not that much sun.
Welcome, everyone, to week 3 of the Lipp Men on the UFL. I'm Jeff Lippman, and to my left on the screen is
Jake. I guess we're saying Lipp Man because it's the Lipp Men. But we're here to talk some UFL today, the USFL conference, and it's great to be here. How we doing?
All right. So I understand that you were playing a little bit of golf earlier in the day, and you're not exactly thrilled with how that went.
No, I probably shot. I stopped keeping track after about the 5th hole. I probably shot about 130. I'm not the best. I mean, we were playing at a PGA certified course, so probably not the best place for a beginner to be, but I had fun, and you might not be able to tell by the tan I got, but it's nice and hot here, and you might not be able to tell either by the beanie, but it's a bad hair day too. So I had some good fun playing golf, and now I'm excited to talk some football, the original love.
Yes, well, that you've got the Lippmann tan of Builder Neutral, Builder One Neutral as our paint color. Well, your paint color of mine. You can't see it because I got the back. I remember to put the background up. So yeah, this is week 3 of the show, and it's week 3 of preseason, which is the last week of preseason. And next week we're going to get into live play. So it looks like on Saturday both games are going to be on Fox, and on Sunday both games are going to be on ESPN. So that's pretty cool. I haven't seen anything about any pre-show or post-show information yet, but I guess we'll get some announcements this week. But given the times, doesn't look like there's much room in there for any real pre-show or post-show.
No, and as I think we've mentioned in the past, it does seem like they're going a little bare bones with the beginning of the UFL. I do believe that they're trying to prove the concept before they really put a big investment in it. And I think as they expand, as they go into future seasons, that's when you might see some of those pregame shows, those postgame shows, and some of those expanded content for the fans. But I think at this point, it's very important that the fans actually show interest. Without that interest, it's going to be hard for the UFL to continue. So we need to show that interest. We need to ask for those pre-shows for them to actually happen. So, as the season moves forward, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I do think they're going to be trying out a lot of new things, different things. And I think as we progress through the season, it's going to be a very different end of the year as the beginning of the year.
I think you're right about that. I don't think there's any surprises with that. There is a bunch of news this week. Some is news, some is a little bit of gossip, some is a little bit of confirming sort of gossip or rumors that we heard last week. And then we'll cover the USFL division, those 4 teams, which seem to be the sort of the old ladies of the league. They seem to be a little bit more stable than I think that the XFL division. There seemed to be a little bit moving or shaking, and at the same time, I think that the XFL, this is just my impression, but I found the XFL division to be more interesting to cover, maybe because it was the first 4 teams we were looking at, and maybe it's just recency bias. But there were some things that caught my eye on this. But so basically, the UFL did announce that all of the games will be covered on Sirius XM radio. So if you want to listen and you're on the road, you can get Sirius XM. You can get a free trial for 30 days. That's basically half the season right there. If you have a significant other, they can get the trial the next week or the next month, and you have the whole season, and then you have the playoffs. You can go to a local sports bar, hopefully. There's on you saying that something's a bare bones. It seems that might be the case for the networks. But apparently all reports from the league itself and from the teams was that the facilities were great. And by facilities, I don't just mean the turf and whatever, but they did say they had new turf. The hotels were better. The food was better. They were all in an office building. Each team got half a floor. So they had offices. They weren't working, in Motel 6s or whatever. I'm not saying they were in Motel 6s last year, but everybody seemed to be much happier with where they were this year. It felt like a real job, a real office. It also sort of confirmed some of the things that I think we were thinking but not saying, that aside from that $5,500 a week, the players are also getting room. They're staying in hotels. They're getting bored. I mean, when you're in a hotel, that it's not great living in a hotel, but there's things like you don't have to clean your room because somebody cleans the room.
Yeah.
When there's food provided,
Housekeeping.
yep, you don't have to go food shopping. You don't have to worry about the meals. Apparently, the meals are being provided for, whether it's the continental breakfast at the hotel or the teams. I think the teams themselves are providing, or the league itself is providing the food. So, they're getting a little bit more than your typical job and your typical travel job as well. Did you hear anything more to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I think is worth mentioning is tight end Jay Sternberger of the Birmingham team. He actually went on Twitter on a little bit of a tirade, and he was calling out other players that are not in the NFL and saying how he doesn't understand that all the players that he's reached out to have not really shown the interest back in joining the spring league. So it does seem like the players that are in the spring league are actually very happy with what's going on, and they want to see some of these bigger college guys and some of the guys that maybe fizzled out of the NFL join the spring league, because he was saying that it's weird that players are not responding to his texts. They don't want that spring film. They don't want the extra practice time. And so the guys that you have there are committed and they do seem happy. And I think these guys that are playing, they're looking forward to some more competition. And I think as league expands, hopefully next year and the year after, a lot more of those guys right on the edge of the NFL rosters will start joining the league, because I think it's the best way for you to get in the league. I mean, would you rather sit on your couch or get some film playing football? And to me, it's a no-brainer. And to Jay Sternberger, the former all USFL first team and receiving touchdowns league leader in the USFL, he believes it too. And so definitely check it out on Twitter. He went on a little tirade there, and I do think that he makes a lot of very valid points. I mean, if you're a football player and you desire to be in the NFL, why not take this opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, and Birmingham's a good example of that. I think they had 16 or 17 players who got
A
picked up
lot.
by the NFL. Not all of them stuck. None of them made the whole. I think like 6 of them made it through the whole season. But it is a pathway. It's it's, and every rung up the ladder, your pathway gets a little bit easier to stand out, and by playing and an active competition against other close to NFL level or NFL level competition, it allows you to stand out. So the rosters as of today or yesterday were supposed to be cut down to 50. So the UFL website, it has made improvements from last week, but it is still not exactly current. It's down to about high 50s, 60 players on the various rosters, even though some of the teams have already turned their cuts in. So there's obviously a little bit of a lag there. 3 of the teams actually got themselves to 50 midweek. So obviously they're pretty confident in themselves. 2 are teams that we covered last week, the Renegades and the Defenders, and the third is the shirt I'm wearing today, the Houston Roughnecks, which is the grand old team which switched cities and looks to be having the Houston Oilers old logo on there. So obviously a little bit of either cooperation or turning the other way from by the NFL. But all teams are down to 50, and the website it's still alphabetically, not by position, or there's certainly not depth charts, which I wouldn't expect on a league website anyway. But it is what it is, and it is slowly catching up with reality. There's also an interesting aspect where they hold open a blank spot if you're one of the players that's eligible to be drafted by the NFL. So there's a couple of players on each team that's eligible for the draft coming up next week, and you had to make that available. So those players don't have numbers yet. If you're looking at the website wondering why doesn't that person have a number, it's because they're eligible for the NFL draft. So there's still room for some of those other players to move up and down, which I think is an interesting little thing. It was confirmed that this week that Smith is out for the season with the ACL tear. I didn't get any clarification as to whether that's because of the status of IR itself or his injury. I think it's his injury, not IR. I think that you're right that there's different levels of IR.
And I do believe for this instance, it is his injury itself. I do believe he tore his ACL on his opposite knee of this injury twice in his college career, and so now this is the opposite knee. But this is now the third time that he's had an ACL injury. So coming from someone who had an ACL injury myself, it's a very hard injury to come back from. So credit to him for doing it twice, and I wish him the best in his recovery for this third time. But that's just rough to see, and we'll talk about it later. But they did bring in some reinforcements for him, so I do think that he is a guy that can make an impact in the future. He definitely has potential in the UFL and even in the NFL. He was a great player last season, so it's very sad to see him. And for the DC Defenders, I mean, that offense was based around him, so it'll be interesting to see how they react.
Yeah, it's tough. And I said Smith. I should say Abram Smith, since Smith is one of the more common names, period. But yeah, as you pointed out, this is his third ACL tear, but two are on the prior leg and one is on this leg. So I don't know. At running back, that's pretty tough. But, another sort of big name potential running back was signed by DC this week, DeQuandre White. And Birmingham signed defensive end in Taco Charles. Or Charlie. I'm not sure.
Taco Charlton, former
Charlton.
NFL player. He had a little bit of problem with some suspensions, but Taco Charlton's a stud. He's a guy that has a very good resume, and it's going to be very interesting to see how he's able to pick up the UFL game and the speed of football. I mean, he's probably been in camp for less than a week at this point, and the first game's next week, so he'll have about 2 weeks to ramp up to full game speed. So it'll be fun to see him, as he's one of the more notable players on the defensive edge rush in the entire league.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, he was a first-round pick in 2017. In the NFL, he had some problems with suspensions and some off-the-field problems and things like that, and he's working his way back. But this is a great opportunity for him, and Birmingham seems really high on him. I mean, I think they have him at least penciled in as the starter on defensive end. So
absolutely,
and that's a team built around defense. A couple of no surprises. Arlington did name Luis Perez as their quarterback. We both figured that had to happen, and it's sort of the right thing to do. The Roughnecks also Jay Guarantano. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
That's pretty close, I think. Guarantano. I can't wait to hear the broadcast pronunciation.
Me as well, because I've heard some other people who are as good as broadcasters as we are, and it's been different pronunciations. So, but he's the starter. The Roughnecks have an interesting quarterback situation, and we'll get to that in a second. Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator, he's for DC, right? He's for the DC Defenders. Yep. He has a podcast because everyone does, because everyone's got to compete with us, right? Yeah, but it's with his son, so I guess I give him a little break on that one. But he
sounds like they're copying us.
You know what? You're right. That's lame, dudes, lame. Better not be the Williamses on the UFL. So he pontificated on expansion, basically confirmed what we said last week, is that the plans do seem to be to add 4 teams next year and then 4 more the year after to expand rapidly to 16 teams. So, okay. I mean, it's good to have plans. We see it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's good to have plans. You don't have to pull the trigger on them. It's good to have the plan in effect and the infrastructure in place and the logistics down and all of that. There's nothing wrong with that. And
if I can add to that, I've actually heard some rumblings. Orlando, I do think if they do expand to 12, I think Orlando will definitely have a team. I've heard Chicago is one of those teams with the infrastructure that they think that they'd like to put a team there. And I think that Philly, Pittsburgh area, Pittsburgh had a team, I believe, oh God, I don't want to get this wrong, but I believe it was in the USFL last year. But Pittsburgh had a team. Philadelphia, the New Jersey, New York area is another area with the potential to have another team. And Oklahoma City is the other city that I've heard having a lot of traction as a home for a football team. So there's a number of cities. I don't foresee them expanding out to the west. I do think they're going to keep it kind of, Mississippi River and east. But I think at this point in time, there's a lot of opportunity for additional teams to join the league. And that's just great for the sport of football.
The only other city I'm hearing with a lot of support beyond the ones you named was Canton, Ohio.
Yes.
which is, of course, where the Pro Football Hall of Fame is. So it would make a lot of sense, and it'd be great synergy and probably a lot of exposure just from the normal tourists going there. Moose Johnson made some statements this week about best practices, and he sort of talked about how everybody is really engaging in best practices. They're adopting the philosophy of the league. They're leaving their egos at the door. They're all looking into the best interests of the league, the players, the coaches. Everybody's on the same page for the most part as far as attitude is concerned. But he does acknowledge that there's still some league confusion between the former leagues and rules and whose vision is what. And I think that, we express some of that, not just because we're new to the league ourselves and we're in fact a little bit confused about some things, but I think everyone's a little bit confused about some things. It's very much still a work of in progress. And he also talked about how important it is for the leagues to sort of insinuate themselves into their local markets, get some local good publicity, build up those local fan bases, which is smart.
100%. And you have fan bases like St. Louis, which is extremely established and loyal. And so it'll be interesting to see how the other cities follow suit. And I think there's a lot of initiatives that can be put in place. And I think there's a lot of things that could potentially happen. And the fans are the base of the league. I mean, you can have the most talented players in the league, but if you don't have fans showing up to watch them, what good is having the league? So it's going to be very interesting to see the initiatives that they put forward. I've seen a lot of reports of people actually so far being very invested in the league. And it does seem like the teams are putting in a lot of effort to really connect with their local communities. So that's amazing to see. And I can't wait to see what else they do. I know we talked about last week. Definitely go check out the episode last week about some of the programs that they're doing, bringing some additional coaches on the sidelines and other initiatives like that. So I think we're going to see a lot of things run out like that throughout the season.
Yep. And DC has been very successful in selling out tickets, and they've opened up some other sections as well. So there's one called the Beer Snake section, and apparently that's all been sold out as well. I mean, I don't know. Beer Snake sounds like a pretty dangerous place to be.
I think that's where all the fun people go.
It could be. It very much could be. Or the reptilians. I mean, it's DC after all.
You never know what you're going to get there.
No, you do not. Absolutely. The UFL app is active. It's up and running. And we have a little bit more, maybe in the only real surprise cut that made any sort of, I guess, broadband is Manny Bunch, because he was a former all USFL player. He's a safety. He got cut and then retired. So there's some question as to whether or not, it was sort of a mutual decision. In any event, he was a running back.
And while we're on this topic, I think we'll probably avoid the cuts a little bit to try and speed up the episode today. But I think it's very interesting to see that a lot of all USFL first team players have gotten cut. A lot of all XFL players last year also have gotten cut. So it's very interesting to see how, each league had 8 teams last year. So 16 total teams getting condensed to 8. It's very interesting to see how some of that top talent from last season has fizzled out of the league. And it's going to be interesting to see if these guys get opportunities in other cities or if maybe the opportunity comes next season. But it's been very interesting to see some really highly regarded players not finding homes. And it could just be coach by coach. It could just be player by player. But I have seen that trend where a lot of guys that got accolades last year have struggled to maintain on rosters. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this year. It could just be because the fact that the league is smaller, that the talent, the level of expectation is much higher. But a lot of these guys that did great last season are free agents. And that's shocking to me. And I think that's great for the teams when they find injuries to find replacements. But it's very sad for the athletes.
And the last, that is. But the last note that I have is that Mark Thompson, running back, has a sprained knee, and he was penciled in to be a starter. But he's not out for the season or anything. But that team, and we'll talk about that team some, and I'm sure we'll talk about the running back position a little bit. But so now I guess we'll dive right into the USFL division. And I sort of took the lead with the news. I'll let you take the lead with the teams.
Yeah, and I think you missed a very key point. I mean, we've
Oh,
talked
I'm
about it
sure.
a lot when it comes with this league, but Mark Thompson, a former Raven, he played at the University of Miami, and he's a stud, and he's a guy. I mean, we'll talk about them next, but they've got a great 1-2 punch, and Mark Thompson's a guy that was really, really high regarded, and he's a guy. He's pushing 30, but that guy, he's still chugging along at top efficiency. So I really hope him a safe and speedy recovery, and I can't wait to see him back on the field because they're going to be a dangerous team up in Houston. But I think we've been doing this alphabetically. So let's start with Birmingham. And I think the best position to start with is quarterback. I mean, quarterback's the most important position in football. And with them, they've got Matt Corral. And many of you might remember him, the Ole Miss quarterback. He played for the Panthers, 3rd-round pick. And he's there, and he's getting pushed by guys like Jamar Smith and Adrian Martinez. I mean, I remember Adrian Martinez in college football. I mean, that's a really good quarterback room. And Matt Corral is currently at the helm. He should be starting week 1. And he's got some really good targets to throw to. And before we get to the targets, the running backs, they've got CJ Maribel. I like Larry Roundtree a lot. And they also got Ricky Person Jr. So they've got a 3-headed punch at running back. And truthfully, I don't know who we expect to see as their number 1 running back. I think that's going to be a fluid situation as the season goes on. But for Matt Corral, this might be a pass first team. I mean, as we've talked about a lot, the coaching really does matter. And for Birmingham, they got Skip Holtz. And Skip Holtz, he's a great mind. And for them, I think I expect to see a lot of passing. This is because they have talent. They have a lot of talent. We mentioned Jay Sternberger earlier. He was the all USFL first team tight end. He led the league in receiving touchdowns, and he'll be leading the way at tight end. Right behind him is going to be Jordan Thomas, who's another guy with a lot of talent. But at receiver, Amari Rodgers, he played at Clemson, got drafted by the Green Bay Packers. They've got Deion Kane. He played for the Colts for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Marlon Williams. He played for UCF, big 6'4" receiver who can catch jump balls. Benjamin Victor, guy that spent a lot of times with the Ravens, another 6'4" guy that can catch jump balls. I mean, they're deep. And that's not even including Gary Jennings. And Gary Jennings played a number of years with Seattle right behind Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. So they're really deep at the receiver position. And this is an offense that I expect to see a lot of fun from. Do you have any thoughts there? Am I missing anything?
No, you mentioned one guy's name, but Jordan Thomas is a wide receiver who's 6'5", 280 pounds.
Yeah. And I think he'll be more of like a move tight end. He'll play that wide tight end position. And I think he's the guy that you'll see in motion. They might keep him out in the slot, but it's going to be hard for him to find time behind Jay Sternberger. I mean, Jay Sternberger's a former NFL guy, and he had success there as well.
Yeah, this is a big team. They've got a D tackle from Florida State who's 6'5", 305. They've got a bunch of tall wide receivers. They have, we talked about the starting quarterback, but the backup quarterback from Kansas State, Adrian Martinez, is 6'3", 225, sort of that almost prototypical NFL style quarterback. Size-wise, Kansas State, is a wide open offense. There's an interesting combination. I keep sort of remarking on it that it seems to be like a lot of SEC defense types and SEC players, but also in the offense you have a lot of sort of the wide open, the sort of the West and sort of the more wide open kind of offenses. But there's a running back that's 5'10", 210 pounds from Missouri, Larry Roundtree. I mean that just seems like a little plug, not even that little, but so almost like in the Ray Rice mold, more of the more modern running back, back when in my day, the running backs were sort of 6 feet to 225, 230.
Don't outdate yourself here.
Your Eddie Georges, was sort of like the prototypical Robert Smith, so the Ohio State, but it seems to be a lot of guys that are more closer to 5'9" to 5'11", and just plugs, like 210 pounds, 195, sort of fast powerhouses as well. A tackle that's 6'6", 310 from Cincinnati. And talent like that is how you can cut both Boldens. But yeah, you mentioned Dean Kane, 6'2", 202 from Clemson. So, a lot of pedigree there. A bunch of Alabama players there, not wide receiver, I'm sorry, offensive line.
And being in Birmingham, it makes sense to have some Crimson Tide players there.
Indeed, it sure as heck does. And there's a Maryland tackle. I hope he made the Derwin Gray, 6'5", 320 from Maryland. Did he make
Yep.
that's fabulous.
To my knowledge, he did make the roster, and honestly, Derwin Gray, I do remember him spending a little bit of time. I believe it was in the Ravens camp and bounced around a little bit. And he is a big boy. And as you mentioned, I mean, they've got a big offensive line. They're not the most pedigreed offensive line in the entire league, but as you mentioned, they have size and power. And this is going to be a physical team up at the line of scrimmage. And I do expect them to throw the ball downfield. I mean, when you have a guy like Matt Corral who had that kind of success, you may as well throw it down the field. And honestly, they have the backup quarterbacks that if Matt Corral ends up in the NFL, or if unfortunately if he gets injured or something, they have the quarterbacks there to continue that style of offense and plug and play and just keep churning it out. I mean, we listed 5 different receivers, 3 different running backs, 2 top tight ends. I mean, this is a deep offensive team. And as you mentioned, on defense, their style is the exact same. So this is going to be a team that I think is going to be very fun to watch play. And I mean, we're talking defense now a little bit. Their defense is a little less pedigreed, but they're led by Scooby Wright, formerly of the University of Arizona. He's a very fun player. I'd love to see him go sideline to sideline. We mentioned a little earlier, they have Taco Charlton off the edge. And really, my favorite player on their entire defense, my roommate's from West Virginia, so maybe I got a little bit of bias here, but Kenny Robinson at safety, formerly from West Virginia, he's a really hard-hitting guy. He's got some range on the defense, so I really do think that they have the ability to be a really dynamic team. They have options on options on options, and I do think that they have the potential to win a lot of games. Their kicker is Chris Blewett, who's a guy who had a lot of success last year. And as you mentioned, Zaquandre Wright, he's going to DC now to help replace Abram Smith, but he is a guy that they did choose to cut. So it's very interesting to see how a top running back like that might now be starting for DC Defenders, who last week I did say was one of my favorite teams, probably top 2 for me in the XFL. And now he's getting cut from this team and probably going to start for DC. So I think that just shows the depth that they have and the excitement potential that they have on this team.
Is Benjamin Victor still on the team?
To my knowledge, Benjamin Victor is on the team, and Benjamin Victor is a guy that I really like. I mean, as we mentioned a little bit prior, he was in Ravens camp, and he is a big boy, and he can run and catch the ball. And I think it's going to be hard for a lot of these corners. I mean, we've talked a lot about it, how this league seems to be a speed league. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how these corners are going to guard such a big-bodied, strong receiver like Benjamin Victor.
From Ohio State, which at some point was called Wide Receiver University. So,
and if we look at this draft, they got Marvin Harrison Jr. coming out of there. So I wouldn't even say at some point in time, I think they still are Wide Receiver University, and they've got more guys in the pipeline too.
Very nice. Well, yeah. So Birmingham looks to be a pretty stacked team. I don't think anybody is surprised by that. They are a favorite coming into it. They are still the favorite. Though a lot of people are going with St. Louis because of the hometown kind of thing, but I don't know. We both expressed an interest in Birmingham last week, and going through it this week, I still feel the same. I think this is a very, very solid team.
And you know what? We gave scores out of 10 last week. I think I'll give them a 9. I mean, I do think that their offensive line, it could have some additions, and I think their defense might still have a few little holes in there, and there might be some pieces in free agency that they might add. But I think this is a team that will be in contention and will be a lot of fun to watch. So I'll give them a solid 9 out of 10, and I think at the end of the year, there's a very good chance that might look like a low projection. I mean, they might look like a 10 out of 10 by the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm giving them a 10 just because, I mean, listen, we're both new to this league, and I'm a sizist, and I see a lot of heights and weights I like, and I'm a bit, the big school kind of pedigree. So I'm giving them a 10. Granted, this is preseason. We haven't seen this team play together as a team at all, but the core of their team, I mean, a lot of their team is still the same, and in the same system. So, all right. So Birmingham. So who's up next?
So next we got the Houston Roughnecks. I mean, the team that you've got on your shirt, formerly known as the Houston Gamblers. A lot of their players that they have used to be on the Gamblers, and now that team got rebranded into the Roughnecks. I mean, we mentioned in episode 1 that maybe they didn't want the Gamblers name just because of the negative connotation that could be associated with it. But I mean, this team's a really good team, and I do want to shout out again Nicholas Thorne. I mean, you'll see me looking down a lot. This guy, if you go on his Twitter, his link, or his top posted tweet is going to be this Excel sheet. He keeps it very up to date, and it has the coaches and the players and the free agents. And so, if you're really interested in seeing a little bit more about what is going on in the UFL, this is a great resource. But for them, I mean, led by Chris Johnson and Eric Price and Bob Connolly, I mean, they've got a really good coaching staff. And for them, I mean, they named Jared, I'm going to call him Garantano, but it could be Guarantano. But they named him as the starting quarterback over Nolan Henderson. Nolan Henderson is going to be the backup. And a lot of fans thought that Reed Sinnett would be their starting quarterback. So, again, another trifecta of quarterbacks that they have. And this is a team that I do expect the pressure to be on Jared. I do think that this is a team that if they struggle out the gate, they might make some quarterback changes. And they're not going to be helped by Mark Thompson being hurt. But when Mark Thompson's back, they have a two-headed monster between him and Tion Evans. And Tion Evans, I forget what team he spent with the NFL, but he spent a little bit of time at the NFL, and he was a dynamic running back in college. And when you go through their team, I mean, they're really a run-centric team. I mean, I'll be honest. We've mentioned many a times we're not opposed to being honest with this. Like, we were not big fans of the spring league last year, so I truthfully don't know many of their wide receivers. Most of their wide receivers, to me, don't seem like guys that were in the NFL. They were very high-level college guys, which honestly might help them in this league. And I do think that in this league, I think having guys that did not touch the NFL will add a little bit of hunger, a little bit of passion and power into that offense. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens now without Mark Thompson. I think Mark Thompson was really going to be a guy that could have been one of the top running backs in the league. And so his loss is very sad for them, but they also have a very good offensive line. I mean, Braylon Jones at guard. I mean, looking at the rest of their team, they've got Justin Reed at tackle, and they've got another number of really big guys at offensive line. I mean, and I mean, as you mentioned, we love big, physical, hard-nosed football. So yeah, I think that's good. And when we breeze through the defense, I mean, they've got some really good guys on the D-line between Chris Odom, Ethan Westbrook, Carlo Kemp. And then you look at their linebacker, and they have probably one of my favorite players in the entire league, and Reuben Foster, who had a very established career with the 49ers. And then when you look down past their roster, I mean, Corn Elder, he has a great name. I mean, I love the name Corn, but he played, I believe it was at the University of Miami. He spent some time with the Carolina Panthers. He's a very high-level cornerback, and I think they have a lot of options. I mean, throughout their roster, it's interesting because I think they have a lot of career spring league guys, and I think that motivation for them might help them in this really, really tough conference with 4 really solid teams. So I don't know if you have any thoughts to add to that, but I think this is a very interesting team, and it's one of those teams where you might look at it on paper and be like, I don't know a lot of these players, but when you see them play together as a team, it might be a different story, and you might be very impressed.
I worry about any team that's excited about 3 quarterbacks. Because you should be excited about one and feel good enough about a second, especially when there's only 50 players. And active, I believe it's 43 players active each week. So I don't know about this whole, more than one quarterback. And I believe Nolan, they've been talking about sort of playing 2 quarterbacks each play and then sort of in a little razzle dazzle kind of thing.
And he's an athletic guy.
Yeah. Mark Thompson was the 6'2", 235-pound kind of running back we were talking about. Now, the backup, the guy from Northern Arizona, Emmanuel Butler, but he's still the backup. But he's also like 6'2", 225, and then Tion Evans is 5'11", 210. So they've got a lot of strength and size there. And Louisville is known as being a speed team, so that probably works as well. It's just they're a little bit more confusing. I can't really tell what their personality is. Most of their wide receivers seem to be smaller slot guys. I assume that they're very fast. There's one, tall guy as an outlier. They have some very big tight ends, but they're not from big programs, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. But
I forgot to mention them. I'd like to shout out Braden Bowman. He's a very high quality tight end.
Yep. Well, South Alabama, 6'4", 235. Again, as a tight end, I know tight ends are getting more athletic and leaner, but it's a little light for a tight end. I don't know.
But you know what? I like what you mentioned with the two quarterback sets, because if they're able to run some of these things with these the two passes that you're able to have, I think having an athletic tight end that you can move around will allow them a lot of advantages.
It very well might. I like that they've got a middle linebacker from Alabama. I mean that's usually a formula for goodness, if not greatness. This is an interesting team. I don't. So last week I was I thought that San Antonio looked very confusing. I don't really know what, and they're still picking up like high name players, and I have no idea what the personality of their team is going to be. I don't feel as down about Houston as I do about San Antonio. I feel higher on Houston. I know that their fans have really high hopes for their team. Like they're talking like 12-0. Yeah, I mean, every fan base should be saying that, but.
Everything's bigger in Texas, and those guys in Houston definitely believe it there too.
Yeah, I'm giving this a 7. I'm just a little bit confused. For all we know, they could gel wonderfully, and it could be the greatest scheme of all time, or at least the greatest in this division. But I don't know. I'm feeling confused when I look at this team.
And I'm actually shocked that you're giving them a 7, because I feel like in my analysis, I was a little bit more positive, and I think in your analysis, you were a little bit more negative, but you're giving them a 7, and I'm coming here giving them a 6.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm looking at them as, without Mark Thompson, I do think their offense was going to be very run heavy. And I think without Mark Thompson, that might hinder those plans a little bit. I think there's a lot of unknowns on this team, which in one sense could lead to excitement and high potential. And in the other sense, I mean, it could just mean that they're not as well built as some of the other teams in the league. So I'm going to give them a 6 just based off the question marks that they have. But I don't want to count them out. I really love Reuben Foster, and I think the fact that he's going to be leading their defense is a huge boon to them. I mean, he led the San Francisco 49ers defense for a number of years, and I mean, that's a team that is known for their defensive pedigree. So I give them a 6, maybe more so for my newness to this league, but I actually think that it's a lot of question marks. I don't know. I think that they could be better than a 6, but I just don't have the confidence in them at this point in time to give them higher than that.
Okay. Well, I'm certainly not going to be, upset if you came down a full number point grade lower than I did. I thought I was being a little bit dour on it, and you seem to be very excited about it. But okay, so we're in the same range. So,
but I like not knowing what's coming. I like that. So you know what? They'll have my eye on them, and I'll be looking forward to seeing them play next weekend.
Oh, yeah, I am as well. I'm looking forward to actually all of the games this coming weekend, just to see some of the squads come together and see if any of our reviews or previews were on the money, or listen, if they prove us all completely wrong, or if all the teams prove us wrong. The ones that we think are solid, they're all over the place, and the ones that we think are chaotic are, it all works for them. So yeah,
and we'll be right here Sunday, next Sunday, 4 p.m. to take it on the chin. It might not be 4 p.m. because of the game, so we might have to release a new time, but I'll be here to take it on the chin if I'm wrong.
Yeah, we all will. And I guess we should probably make picks of the games when it's over, or before we sign off. But I think we are definitely going to move the time of the show, because I don't think there's much point in doing a UFL podcast and reviewing the week, and we sort of start near halftime of the afternoon game. So we'll probably do it so that it's safely after the game is over, but not too late. We don't want to ruin everybody's night with a podcast, so that you can enjoy watching us if you like to watch us, and it doesn't compete with your dinner plans, your pizza and your Chinese and whatnot. So all right, so who's next?
So we move on to Memphis, the Showboats, and truthfully, I can't believe that they didn't want the Gamblers and they kept the Showboats name. But the Memphis Showboats name, I mean, they have a coach who likes to showboat. John DeFilippo, he's known for the Philly Special with with Nick Foles, and he did some really good work. They've got Doug Martin, a veteran coach, Jim Turner. I mean, they've got some really good coaches along the roster. But when you look at their team, I mean, they're led by Case Cookus, and Case Cookus is a high-level spring league quarterback. I mean, Case Cookus, I hope you're not listening, but I'm not sure what your NFL future holds. But I think you're a guy that's going to be a big time permanent mainstay in this spring league format. And he's a guy that he's able to game manage. He's able to make big plays as well. And, his backups, Josh Love and Troy Williams, they're capable guys, but Case Cookus, I think, has that position locked down. And I think for him, I mean, they're a team that they want to throw the ball a little bit. And for me, their number one receiver that really stands out to me is Vinny Papel. I mean, we talked about him a little bit. His dad is formerly from the Invincibles, played for the Eagles, and that's a great movie. So definitely go ahead and check that movie out. But Vinny Papel is probably the most big name that you'll see on their offensive roster. They've again
me with that movie, by the way. And it's the one where Christian Bale played the older brother. I think it was Mark Wahlberg. And it's called Invincible.
Yep.
So yeah. So I thought that's what you were talking about, but I wasn't sure. But that's the movie we were talking about last week, and that's the player we're talking about, his son. So yes, sorry about that.
No, yes, and I couldn't think of that movie name because it's been many a year since I've watched that movie. But I mean, as a kid that's from Baltimore with my mother from Philly, and I went to school in Philly a little bit. I mean, you got to have a little bit of that Eagle passion in you, and so seeing that movie and seeing the Papel name now in the UFL is definitely something that's very intriguing to me. Now, a lot of their receivers are guys that played in the league last year, but I'd like to focus on their number one tight end, and Sage Surratt. I mean, he's a guy that I think he's going to be able to do a lot of different things for them. I think he's another one of those guys that is going to be able to move across the formation wherever you want, whether you're going to put him in the slot, whether you're going to have him in line, if you want him to block, whether you want him to run a route, whether you want him to be a decoy. He's going to be that guy for Case Cookus that he's going to be able to find him over the middle of the field on third downs, and they're going to be able to do a lot of different things with him. So I think this offense is very interesting because they've got some good guys on the O-line. I mean, Alec Lindstrom, Jaron Jones. I mean, they have an interesting roster, and I feel like it's a team that's going to be extremely competitive. They're not going to be the team that blows the socks off of every team. They're not going to be going for blowouts, but this is the type of team that's going to be competitive in every single game, week in, week out. And I think that's really shown throughout their roster. I mean, they're kind of deep. I mean, Dalen Mack's a guy that I like on their D-line. He's a big boy at D-tackle. Played at Texas A&M, I want to say. It was one of those Texas schools, Texas A&M, but he was a fourth-round pick by the Ravens again, and he bounced around a couple of teams before going there. And they have a lot of guys that have really played well the last few years in the USFL, the XFL, and I don't want to disregard PJ Hall because PJ Hall is another really big boy on their D-line that they have. So I think that they're built from the inside out. I think that they have a great quarterback at the helm, and I do think that they're going to be interesting to watch. And so I don't know if you have anything to add. I think a lot of these players aren't, again, those NFL pedigree players, but I think that's kind of to their advantage.
This team is big. And one of the things I like about this team, and listen, I look at some very things that might be silly and they may be important, but they actually have somebody designated as a nose tackle. And I'm all of us a 6'3", 320-pounder from Georgia, John Atkins. They have a lot of people who are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". They have a 6'7" player. All these, and the 6'7" player I think was only 310, but for 6'7", that's not that big for a tackle. Plenty, they can, like they used to say about Jonathan Ogden when he was first in the league. You can get a lot heavier and still have room to grow.
And let me ask you, when you think of a nose tackle, what's the first player that you think of?
Sam Adams, probably.
And see, that's the difference in our generations. I mean, I actually thought that you might have gone a little different direction, but I think of Haloti Ngata.
Oh yeah, that's good. And I can't think of his name. The one I'm thinking, the guy was on Pittsburgh.
At the same time as Palomalu.
Yeah, and also the New England had a heck of a nose tackle as well.
Vince Wilfork.
Yes, Vince Wilfork. That's there's my brain not working so well, but those are the guys, but all AFC, all big defense, and obviously that's something that I like. What I'm not so sure about is who's the quarterback, who are their wide receivers, who's there? I know they've got Vontae Diggs, sort of leading the defense, which is great. But
Yep.
I don't know who else is there. I mean, Jordan Ferguson's is a big tight end, 6'2", not so tall but big. Um, who are their playmakers though? I mean, listen. I love the name Case Cookus, because he's going to cook us. But I'm not even sure he's the starter. Josh Love. That's a pretty good name for a quarterback as well.
I'll disagree with you there. I do think Case Cookus is their starter. I think Josh Love is the guy who gave him a run for his money in training camp, but Case Cookus is a guy who's established in these leagues.
Well, good. 6'4", 205 is that's good. 6'4", though 220 is more like the size, sort of like the Jared Goff, Matt
Yep.
Stafford kind of quarterback prototypical. That's is a little slim, but the name Cook is great. He's going to cook us. He's going to cook today. All of that is good. I'm just not sure who he's throwing to, and I'm not sure who the starting running back here. Do you have any idea who the starting running back is?
Yeah, I mean, to my knowledge, this Excel sheet I'm using has Darius Victor listed as the running back one, but I actually think it's going to be Trey Williams. He's a guy with a very established college pedigree, and he's also a pretty big, hard runner. So I do think it's going to be Trey Williams. I think they'll mix it up a lot, and I do agree with you. It's very unknown what their wide receiver situation is, and I think their defense is a little bit more set in stone than their offense. So it'll be interesting to see if they make any roster moves. Uh, I don't know if we're ready to start grading the team, but I would actually kind of give this team right on level with Houston. I think there's a lot of question marks, and I think I'll give them a 6 out of 10 again, but I think this is another one of those instances where this is a team that could totally outperform what's listed on the paper.
It could. I'm seeing a lot of sort of Ray Rice types, 5'7", 5'8", 209, 200. I think their biggest running back is 5'10", 204 from Wyoming. Again, maybe that's part of the plan. Maybe they want to do that. And then again, it's a speed league, and maybe I've got my NFL bias and also my college team bias here. Maybe one of these guys is a D'Angelo Williams that's great at the lower level, not quite as great, almost great at the NFL, but not quite there. Wasn't Barry Sanders wasn't the biggest guy either. I don't know. I'm feeling this team. I'm more on the 6 with this one than the 7. I'm feeling not as strong about the Memphis Showboats as I am about Houston. I do like their size. I do, I love the lines, but I do think that it's a short season. Your offense needs to come out sharp. You need to have an offensive personality. If you take 2
100%.
losses, I mean, the NFL, you take 2 losses, it's not great, but you can still, preserve your season. It happens all the time. In this league, I don't know if you go 0-2 because you don't really know what your personality is and what your right personnel formations are. If you can overcome that with just an 8-game season, so.
And I agree with that. I think a short season, and I think with a lot of these guys really trying to use this to push themselves in the NFL, I think the mental side of the game is going to be very interesting if a couple losses stack up.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I gave them a 6. What do you give them? I forgot already.
I gave them a 6 as well. I think that they're right in the same situation as that Houston Roughnecks team. I think that they have the potential and the ability to be better than a 6, but I think when you look at them on paper, there's just those question marks there.
I agree. I mean, we're obviously in accord on this one, so that leaves us with our last team, the Michigan Panthers, the most northern team in this league, sort of the outlier. It's not really still part of big college football town, but I don't know. Somehow Michigan got in here, but New York didn't, or Philly didn't, or
geographically it makes no sense. But this is an intriguing team, and I don't know if Panthers is the right name. I don't know if Panthers are really in Michigan. Maybe I would have loved to see a reference to the lakes or some of the creatures in the water, but I think this is a very intriguing team that we're talking about here. And they did have some issues at quarterback. Carson Strong, they lost. They had Josh Love last year, but so I know they brought in Brian Lewerke. They have Danny Etling, who spent some time with the Patriots. So they also have some quarterback options. I personally hope to see Brian Lewerke as their quarterback. I don't know. Do you know exactly who they've listed as their starter so far?
I do not. I'm not sure who their starter is. Um, I don't think it is going to be the kid from Elon. Um,
EJ Perry.
that's right. That's right. EJ Perry.
And EJ is a guy that I think he's very athletic, but I think if you're looking for arm talent, I think when you look at Danny Etling and Brian Lewerke's got the arm talent. Danny Etling's kind of right in the middle of those two guys. So I think it's going to be very interesting because they have three different style quarterbacks, in my opinion.
Yeah, actually, EJ Perry he's from Brown.
Oh, I was wrong.
Yeah, no, the guy from Elon probably got cut. But I think that you're right about the starter is going to be boy, what's his name? I'm looking down at this.
Lewerke. No, you're all good because Brian Lewerke is a Michigan State guy. I mean, it only makes sense for the Michigan State guy to be the quarterback for the Michigan team, and they brought him out of free agency. So you would think if they showed that type of interest in him, that he would be the guy that they want. But looking at this team, I mean, first of all, let's talk about their coaching real quick. They're led by Mike Nolan, and they've got some other guys, Tim Holt, Brock Marion. So they've got some other guys that you may have heard of. But when you look at their roster, I mean, this is an intriguing team in my eyes. I mean, they've got a running back in Wes Hills who was very good last season, and Matt Colburn is another guy who I remember in college being very fond of. And then when you look at the receiver position, they've got some options. I like Devin Gray. I like John Hightower at tight end. They've got some other guys. I mean, they're an interesting team, and where I think they're going to have their bread and butter is going to be on defense. I mean, they've got guys like Breedland Speaks and Kenny Wilkes. Both of those guys have some ties to that geographic area. Kenny Wilkes is another Michigan State guy. Breland Speaks spent some time at Kansas City. Forgetting where he went to college. But Breland Speaks is a guy who very, very talented. Can you fill in the blanks with where he went to school for me?
Speaks? I sure can. Just need to scroll. Yeah, he went to Ole Miss. So, yeah, big college, big program. 6'3", 285 defensive end, sort of exactly in that speed edge, but with size can't get pushed around that easily. Yeah, they have an
100%.
interesting team. They have a wide receiver that's 6'6", 205 from Southern Oregon. Also, sort of the small, the smaller but fire plug type of running backs. Toa Tawa, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. 5'9", 218 running back from Nevada. They've got a tackle from Eastern Washington, Tristan Taylor, 6'6", 330. I mean that always gets me excited. Another offensive tackle from southeastern Oklahoma State at 6'5", 305. But I don't know. I'm not sure about southeastern Oklahoma State. But it does seem like a bit of a smaller team. But again, the lines and the tight ends, like they seem to have, like this team makes more sense to me. The lines and the tight ends are bigger, they're heavier, they're taller, but then they've got like their speed positions. So I feel like they know what their personality is designed to be. They have a lot of players from smaller schools. I'm not sure. Like nothing about this team makes sense to me, and I don't know why there's a team in Michigan when it seems like Oklahoma City or even like Little Rock, Arkansas, yep. or someplace would have maybe one of the Carolinas would have made more sense.
Atlanta.
Yeah, well, but even if they didn't do Atlanta, if they did, Greensboro or some, or Columbia, yep. South Carolina. There's plenty of these cities that don't. Louisville. I mean,
Louisville's got a great sports culture.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of Louisville players that are scattered about this league as well. But yeah, this team. By the way, folks, we are going a little bit fast because we said these 90-minute shows, it's probably too long, and we want to stick within an hour, and that's why we're going through. This team, I don't know. I'm going to go with 6 again. I know that seems kind of lazy. I was going to give them a 5, but that seems a little bit.
Oh, that's harsh.
I don't know who the quarterback is. I don't know who the tight end. I mean, the running back is. I don't know who their wide receivers are. It's hard for me to get excited if I really don't know who any of those players are. I don't mean that not just that I don't know who they are personally. I don't know that they're rock solid penciled in the starters.
Yeah, and you know what? I see what you're saying. I think that competition breeds competitiveness. And I think with the coaching staff that they have in place, I think they do get an advantage by being so far away from everybody. I do think that travel is going to be unnatural for some of these other teams. But I think a little bit higher of them. And I mean, some guys that we didn't even mention, Noah Dawkins at inside linebacker. He's a guy that I really like. And probably my favorite player in the entire league is Kai Nakua, BYU safety.
Not
I
Raymond
actually,
Calais?
sorry?
Not Raymond Calais, the running back from Louisiana?
Uh, Personally, for him, I don't remember him playing in college and or the NFL, and I remember kind of cool very well. I actually am very fond of his playing style. He's one of those hard nosed hitting safeties, and he's a guy that I love and I love watching play. And my dog Tucker over here, he's shaking his tail. I mean, I think he likes Kai Nakua too. But for the team, the Michigan Panthers, I mean, they're interesting to me, and they've got a couple guys on IR, which really hurts them. And when I say a couple, they've got 6 guys on the IR, more than any other team that I've noticed so far. I don't know. I like what they have going on here. I actually think that their team does make sense. I mean, maybe not the location makes sense, but I actually think that their roster does. I think they're constructed to be a team that can have some longevity. I think that they can have a solid defense with an offense that can get first downs and move the ball. And I think when you look at their team, I think they lost a lot of talent last season. I mean, they had a guy in Carson Strong who he ended up replacing Carson Wentz at North Dakota State, if I'm correct. They've got some guys there. And if you ask me, this is a team that can be competitive. And I think we might go into some predictions before we wrap up the show, but I don't know. I was stuck here. 7.5 was kind of what I was thinking. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll round them up to an 8. I think some days I might have given them a 7, but today I'm going to give them an 8. I think they're are a team that can really do well. And I mean, last week we kind of gave our predictions for the season. I kind of said that I think Arlington versus DC are going to end up as the XFL top 2 teams, and they're going to end up in the championship. And this year with the USFL, I've got Birmingham versus Michigan. And to me, it's a little clear cut. So I got Birmingham versus Michigan. I do think Birmingham takes it. I think it's going to end up being Birmingham probably versus DC. But I do think that it's going to be very interesting to see how the season goes on. And I do like Michigan. While we're on the topic of Michigan, I like Michigan. I think Wes Hills is a very good running back. And I think that they are a high-quality spring team. These are not guys that you might not recognize their names of, but I don't think that matters.
I like Houston better than I like Michigan. I agree with you on Birmingham. I think that the Houston Birmingham is going to be that side of the bracket. I do think that Birmingham is going to hold on, and I think it's going to be Birmingham against DC. Not ready to make a. I mean, I guess it really. What's the cost if we get it wrong? I'm going to go with an upset with DC winning the championship. Just because of, geography closeness bias.
Yeah, and you know what? If I'm saying it's going to be DC versus Birmingham, I actually really like the DC roster. I think that they have talent littered up and down, and we talked about them last week, so go ahead and check out that episode. I do like the quarterback in Jordan Ta'amu, and I think that they have a really good wide receiver core. I mean, Kiki Cutie is the guy that leads the way. I actually would probably say that DC might not be able to bring it out of Birmingham. I don't know. I've been going back and forth. I've been thinking about this for a few hours now. I actually like Birmingham a lot. I think Birmingham's built to last. I think they have a major, major advantage by being the closest to where the training facility is. I don't know if that's just in my head or if that's something that logically makes sense, but to me, it makes sense that Birmingham's not going to have to travel the way that other teams are going to have to, which I think does give them an advantage. And I don't know. I think that they're just the most well-rounded team. They have talent all through all 3 levels of their offense and their defense. And I don't know. I'm excited to see some of these teams play, and I think we get some clarity after watching them play live. So I don't know. We've got a couple minutes before we go to our time limit. Do you want to? Because I honestly haven't seen the week 1 matchups. Do you want to start going through the week 1 matchups, and we can maybe break down do a quick little prediction and quick little talk about who's facing each other week 1? Because I mean, we've all been preparing for the season, and the season's right around the corner.
Let me pull up those matchups then, because I know I have them. Okay, UFL. I found myself. All right. So it looks like the Saturday games are on Fox. We got the Birmingham Stallions versus the Renegades. Obviously I'm going to go with the Stallions on that one.
And you know what? Without even hearing the other matchups, that's matchup of the week. I mean, that's going to be a game that is going to be highly competitive. And I think it's going to come down to who has the ball last, personally. I'm going to actually lean Arlington here. I do think that Arlington is a very high quality team. And for me, I mean, when you look at all these rosters up and down, I think you want to see guys that have been there, done that. And with Luis Perez, you have a guy that's been there, done that. He's won multiple times. So I'm going to go with Luis Perez and the Arlington Renegades, but I think Birmingham's going to pick it up as the year goes on.
Upset special. All right. Well, you be prepared to be intrigued because you may have to back up on your matchup of the week, at least for you, because the 4:00 game is the St. Louis Battlehawks at your Michigan Panthers.
And you know what? That's a great game. And I think if you think about it, like I don't know. I think you were higher on St. Louis than I was. I think that I like that they have a lot of that NFL pedigree, and I kind of do like Michigan's team.
I know.
I'm going to go with the safe bet, though. I do think Michigan would be intriguing here, but I'm going to go with the Battlehawks here. I just feel like they're the smarter pick without knowing anything from how these teams play together.
Yeah, the only variable is that it's in Michigan. It's not in St. Louis. But I'm also going to go with the Battlehawks because, I mean, you just heard me 5 minutes ago on the Panthers. I'm not that high on them. So the Sunday games are on ESPN. I don't know if it's on ESPN Prime or ESPN2 or whatever, but the 12 o'clock game, by the way, the Saturday games are 1 p.m. and 4 p.m., but the Sunday games are 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. So,
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. So we have the DC Defenders at the San Antonio Brahmas. I don't think that the home field advantage is going to matter. San Antonio, I think, is my biggest question mark team in the entire league. I don't know what's up with them. I know that the 11th commandment is about Wade Phillips, but I'm going to go with DC. I think that the dominant defense beats a confused offense, especially at the beginning of the season.
And I just want to put out here before I speak at all that the last 20 seconds I've been going back and forth because I really like the Brahmas. They're very intriguing to me. I think they're a team that can really overproduce, and DC is kind of my favorite team as well. I think that they have the talent littered up and down their roster to be successful. But you've took DC, so for the purposes of this, I do again. I think this is a close game. I think it could very easily come down to last possession. I'm going to take the other side. Give me the Brahmas. I think the Brahmas are a very competitive team, and I don't know. I think that they're going to be fun to watch. So I'm going to take the Brahmas here in what might be an upset pick.
Okay, well, I would say it's definitely an upset pick. And in what I would think would be an equally compelling game to St. Louis versus Michigan, we have the Memphis Showboats playing at Houston Roughnecks. I'm going to go with a home team in this one. I'm going to go with Houston. I think that I graded both these teams sort of similarly, but I don't know. I just have a spider sense, more secure feeling about Houston than about Memphis, which is based on very little, to be frank. But I'm picking Houston over the Showboats. This might be your last possession type of game.
And you know what? This is what's crazy. I think we've kind of been in line with a little bit of each style of game, but I disagree. I fully disagree. And I gave both of these teams 6 out of 10s. And so my prediction might not make sense in line with that for the purposes of this episode. But a lot of the times, if you're talking about MMA fights, styles make fights. And it's the same thing in football. Styles make matchups. And for me, I don't trust Houston. And I think there's a lot of Houston fans out there, probably a little bit more than Memphis fans. But losing Mark Thompson's a big loss. I think they're, like you mentioned, a lot. Their quarterback situation is up in the air. And when you look at Memphis, I mean, they really haven't had major losses. They've got a guy in Case Cookus who's proven in this league. And I don't know. I'm going to go with the Memphis Showboats. I mean, in the battle of 6 out of 10 teams, I actually think I could see Memphis winning by a couple touchdowns here. I actually, if we're going to do any scores, I actually think Memphis can put up some points in this matchup. And I don't know what field goals are going to look like in this game. So I'll just say that I think that they win by 3 scores.
Wow. Okay. Those are some bold predictions. I wasn't going that deep. And okay. So good on that. I guess your 3 scores are within the field goal range, not necessarily the touchdowns plus all the different variations of extra points.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, I just see that one team's going to score close to 40 and the other team's going to be stuck around 20. And I think when you really look at it, I mean, to me, without a run game, and I mean, I could be very wrong, but without Mark Thompson, that's the beating heart of that team. So I do think Memphis is going to be able to control the game from the start.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. You can send us your predictions if you like. You can. There I am on X at actually it's at Icarus Fell MD. It's not Evil Dose at Icarus Fell MD. That's sort of a combination of my 2 Twitter accounts, but it's just at Icarus Fell MD. I'm on my real name under Facebook, and Jake can give you his stuff as well, but I'm pretty sure he's under his real name on X. I'm not sure if he does Facebook or not. I know that the kids like Instagram and the Tick and the Talk. But yeah, as far as anything else, listen, I hope that you check out my podcast Garden of Doom and its sister show Garden Views. This very podcast audio is found on the Garden of Doom feed. So if you want to hear us instead of see us, or both, or if you want to speed up the sound, which is always fun, take it to 1.5 or 2 times speed. That's where you can find it on the Garden of Doom feed. Had a very interesting show with Gary Wayne, who, let's just say for Garden of Doom show, when we went from pre-flood to post-flood to end times. I mean, it might have been my magnum opus of everything, the doomiest Doom show of all Doom time. So happy about that. Tomorrow night, I'm on. It sure is a lot of Doom, a whole lot of Doom in the Garden of Doom this week. Tomorrow night, I'm on Unpopular Review on the wrestling side at about 11:05. We're covering Raw live. Well, not live, but live after Raw, 3 hours of wrestling. So please keep me company there, because after watching a 3-hour Raw and having to talk about it, sometimes you folks are the only thing that keep me up at night in the good way. And then this Tuesday night, I'm joining as part of a revolving cast on Tooneytown Wrestling with Marvin the Movie Monster and an all-star panel of excellent Twitter wrestling accounts or X wrestling accounts, including AEW Neckbeards, AE Awful Wrestling. We have AEW Disciplinary Committee, WWE Counselor, and we've got Battle Apollo. We've got a whole revolving crew coming in there, and that's going to be on YouTube on Looney Tune Wrestling channel. So check that out. I think that's all the plugs that I humanly could possibly have right now.
And if anybody's still watching, credit to you. I will keep the plug short. I refuse to call it X. It is Twitter to me. Elon Musk, I love you, but I don't understand the concept of X. It's a Twitter. You're posting a tweet. So find me at Jake_Lippman. If you're interested in any of the MMA content, I've been much more active when it comes to posting on Twitter. I've been not launching my YouTube page, but definitely if you want to go check out some interviews of MMA athletes at Behind the Cage Door on YouTube. Peyton Talbot, that's my guy, episode 14. He just had a disgusting knockout win last night over Cameron Simon, who's a legit prospect. So Peyton Talbot, he really impressed. He's a guy that, he doesn't start fast, but this week he started fast and finished fast, and it was violent. And next week there's Andre Petrosky, my first ever episode. He's fighting on the UFC Atlantic City card. So there's a lot of different interviews. I've got referees, power slap athletes, the power slap heavyweight champion Damien DeBell. So there's a lot of great content there. We got 19 episodes, and I am looking forward to bringing some stuff back there. Just time and life comes in. So at Jake_Lippman, if you want to talk to me on Twitter, not X. But it's a pleasure to be talking to you about the UFL, and I look forward to seeing the season and how it progresses.
Yep. 1 week from now, it's game time. But by this time in 7 days, almost all of the games will be almost concluded. There'll be the fourth game will probably be starting the second half, depending on how long these games go. So we'll be excited to see you then. You do want to hit subscribe and notifications now, because we don't know exactly what time it will be. It will depend how long these games go, and we'll probably try to aim for either a half hour after the game ends, depending on whether or not there is any sort of post-game show. If there is, then we'll probably let that play out, and then we'll try to time it afterwards. If there isn't, then we'll maybe try to go for more like 15 minutes after, but we'll have to coordinate that. And then, we'll be getting information during the course of the week, or maybe during the course of those games, along with all of you. So come learn with us, follow
Let's
along.
call it in between 6 and 7.
That's right.
Just follow us on Twitter to find out.
That's exactly right. Or X, and you can send me exagrams if you do like the new branding. So anyway, and Elon, remember, I don't always love you, but I'm very willing to be your space magistrate. So just send me the space. I'm sure a lot of people would co-sign that as well. So let's talk, you and I. All right, Jake, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for lending your wisdom. You're really carrying the water on the players and the teams and their skill set. I'm using mostly my sense of smell here, but I do have a larger proboscis than you. So with that said, for Jake Lippman, I'm Jeff Lippman. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the 17 people who watched, and give us a like and a subscribe. I think I said that already. So, hey, see you next week.